Hi, my name is Niki Lake. I'm the preserve manager here at Wild Basin. A typical day for me is that there's no such thing as a typical day. Every day here is different, which I really love. So my job here is kind of like a babysitter for the preserve and an investigator for the preserve. So I kind of think of myself as like a nature detective, and I'd like to think of myself as a nature superhero, but that might be a little much, right? But my job is to protect all of the living things in this preserve, including also the non-living abiotic factors like these rocks and stuff like that. So if I see some graffiti or something on this rock, I would immediately go and remove it with chemicals that are not toxic to this preserve. Right now is golden-cheeked warbler season. We can hear one singing in the background here, and we've heard a couple on our way down today. So now is warbler season. We don't use any power tools or anything.
My name is Katie, and I am a volunteer here at Wild Basin. I come out on Saturdays helping out with land management. A lot of times we just trim little pokey things that make sure we don't hit anybody in the eye. We'll do some invasive species, pulling up stuff, and just general taking care of the trail.
I'm Laurel. I'm a Wild Basin intern, and I help Niki out with land management stuff, especially on Saturdays. I come for the work days, and we do a lot of varieties of things. A lot of it is maintaining the trails and working with invasives. I chose to be an intern at Wild Basin because I am studying remotely, and I really wanted to get outside and work with the land and work with plants. I'm really interested in plant taxonomy and native plants and restoring landscapes.
So we're definitely gonna have to do something with this tree. Okay, so I think what we'll do here is take some of the weight off of it so we can start cutting it from above and prevent it from peeling down. I think we need to move this. Normally it's not in the trail, but it is a place where people might try to cross, which would be dangerous, so we're gonna go ahead and take it out. So first I'll make a little undercut, and then an overcut, and then I'll have y'all drag it for me. One of y'all hold it.
Yeah.
So, I'll just drag it off the trail so nobody even knows it was here. So one of the things that one of the big parts of my job here is to preserve biodiversity. And biodiversity is basically just having a lot of different types of things. So a lot of different species of plants. We have over 400 species of plants here. A lot of different types of animals and birds and insects, all of which are studied here at Wild Basin. And so today, one of the big threats to biodiversity are what's called invasive species. And those are species that aren't from North America, that were brought in, that do really, really well here. In fact, they do so well that they outcompete all of the native species and kind of take over. And the problem with that is that the animals here are used to eating the stuff from the native species, and that's what's good for them. So if they're just eating these invasive species, like one called Nandina, then it can be really bad for them. So they might like the taste of it. It's kind of like junk food for birds. But then if they eat a bunch of it, it's gonna actually kill them in the end. So today we are working on invasive species. To do this, mostly we have to go off trail. That's where most of the invasives are found, especially along streams. They come in the seeds with flooding events and get into the sediment that gets deposited along the creek bank, and it provides the perfect environment for it to start growing. So right here we're seeing a bunch of tiny ligustrum seedlings. This tree will get to be about 40 feet tall and puts out a ton of seeds and forms of what's called a monoculture of this species. So basically that's all you're gonna find in some areas is just ligustrum if we let them take over. So we pull them. This size we would just pull by hand, and we try to get the whole root so that's not gonna grow again. And then we hang it on a tree nearby so that it won't hit the ground and start rooting in again. And so Katie and Laurel are here helping me pull these invasives out of the ground today. So we'll just get to work. Okay, so this is the Nandina that we spotted from the trail. I noticed that a lot of the berries must have fallen next to it and created these little babies. And so for like ligustrum, we would pull it up by the root. So if these ones will come up, that's great. These, when they get to be about this high, you just can't pull them up. You have to use a chemical to keep them from regrowing again. So I'm gonna cut it with my folding saw. And try to cut it as close to the ground as we can get. And then I'm gonna use this chemical, which we really don't like to do, but it's a chemical that's found to be safe in areas with the creeks and waterways. And we just squirt it all around the outside of the stump, not even all the way on the middle, because that's where all the plant nutrients are, on the outside of its bark. That's where it's getting its food. So we just leave it like that and it'll kill it. This chemical will soak in. We didn't get any on the ground there. If you can hear this bird in the distance, it's a golden-cheeked warbler we talked about before. It's an endangered songbird singing. And this tree is one of our most important trees in the preserve. It's called an ash juniper tree. It's a native tree to Texas. And the golden-cheeked warbler will only build its nest out of this tree and older juniper trees. So a lot of people call this tree a cedar tree. It's actually a ash juniper or Juniperus ashii, and it has this beautiful peeling bark that the bird makes its nest out of. It'll only use this bark and spider webs to hold it together. So without this tree, this endangered songbird would not have a place to nest and would go extinct. If you are interested in a job like this, that you would have to like to do is walk on rough terrain, get dirty, get dirt under your fingernails, sticks in your hair, but it's the most gratifying job. If having a job outdoors like this interests you, some of the things that you can do are go online and download some of these apps. A big part of my work is identifying these species, so I know which ones should be here and which ones shouldn't be here. There's a really cool app for kids made by iNaturalist called Seek. So that's a way to get experience, just going outside and exploring your world.